Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1928 and today's date is July 28th, 2019, and the title of the episode is The Central Banks Just Tipped Off the World into What Happens Next. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about Bitcoin. Everyone thought Bitcoin was dead. Cryptos are finished. Just a few months ago, this was the general outlook for digital currencies. Noble Bitcoin always believed. They were one of the first to offer crypto IRAs and 401k rollovers. So call Noble Bitcoin today and find out more. Call today and learn how you can move your IRA, old 401k into Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, and few other of the top cryptocurrencies. Call 877-646-5347. It is a free, no obligation phone call. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, I just wanted to mention that I uploaded a new interview. This is with Robert David Steele. You can find it on YouTube Spotlight YouTube channel, or you can go to BitChute, you can go to Gab, you can go to Twitter, you can come to the X22Report.com site, you can go to Steam It. It is on all of these platforms. Or you can just go to YouTube and type in X22 Report Spotlight, and you can watch the interview right there. Now, we know that Trump and the Patriots, they are changing the economic landscape. They have to. And we understand that we need to look at what the central banks do, what their actions are, not what they're talking about, but we need to see and follow what they're actually doing, because this is really not reported in the mainstream media. Yes, what's reported is what they're talking about, but what they're actually doing, that part is left out, and that is the important part. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit later in this report, because they just tipped everyone off and what is going to happen next with this entire economic system. But first, let's start off with Trump and how he's changing the economic landscape. Now, he sent a warning tweet about Apple possibly incurring tariffs on their products if they continue a plan for manufacturing in China. Now, we know that Trump, he's pushing to make a deal with China. We know that he's placed tariffs on China. We know that this is to force companies out of China, maybe into another country or back to the United States, preferably back into the United States. And if you follow the basic roadmap of America First, there is a very clear picture. Now, Trump tweeted out the following: Apple will not be given tariff waivers or relief for Mac Pro parts that are made in China. Make them in the USA, no tariffs. Now, think about that for a second. He's not saying, well, I'm giving you a choice. He's telling Apple, I should say, listen, if you make them in China, you're going to be hit with tariffs. If you make them in the US, there's no penalty. And that is subtle as a brick through a window. But if you read into what Trump is saying, he is telling Apple, you're going to get hit with penalties. Now, Secretary Ross warned the professional investment class that the current objective for Secretary Mnuchin and Lighthizer is to find out if Beijing is willing to re-engage from the starting point where they left off when talks collapsed. That's a very big tell. Trump is not going to accept anything less than a full and complete structural change in the U.S. trade position with China. Now, within this trade deal, there are certain compliance and enforcement clauses, and they are non-negotiable. Trump will not negotiate on these. Now, in the message to Tim Cook of Apple, Trump isn't warning Apple of the possibility of tariffs. He is specifically telling him to expect them. It's not a matter of if tariffs, but when tariffs. Trump is likely planning for Speaker Pelosi's political resistance that she will not bring the USMCA up for ratification vote. Thus, the USMCA trade agreement becomes a 2020 weapon for Trump against the Democrats. We've been seeing change around the world, and we need to keep in mind of the date October 21st, 2019. That's the Canadian election. If Justin Trudeau from Canada loses his re-election, Pelosi cannot hold out on the USMCA. She'll have to ratify it. And think about what has been happening around the world. Many individuals where the mainstream media, the elite, thought they were going to win, they lost. Justin Trudeau might be out in Canada. We'll have to wait and see. Now, trade and tariffs with China, plus the USMCA, plus trade and tariffs on the EU, plus the possibility of an independent UK trade deal, all adds up to a huge positive increase in trade with America. And this will last for a very long time. Now, when you start to look at this and you step back a little bit, you can see Trump, he is positioning for an economic platform in 2020 with specific deliverables. None of the 2020 candidates have any economic plans that can touch the scale of Trump's plan right now. If you notice, the 2020 candidates, they don't even talk about trade or economics. They talk about nothing. And he's trying to position all this to make America first. Think about it. The economy, economic security, America first. Immigration, America first. National security, America first. And he's doing this all on purpose because he's preparing the United States to no longer be the reserve currency of the world, to be independent of a central bank system, which means we need to have real trade. The days of other nations taking their reserve notes and saying, okay, we'll buy something from the United States, those days are over. We need to produce and we need to trade with other nations. Now, France, they just made a move on Trump, and Trump is countering France's move on the economic battlefield. President Macron signed into law a 3% tax on the revenue of technology giants like Facebook and Amazon. The tax would be retroactive to January, and it affects companies with at least 750 million euros in global revenue and digital sales of about 25 million euros in France. And Trump, he's out there and he's saying, whoa, 1 minute here. He said, we might impose tariffs on wine from France as a substantial reciprocal action after France imposed a new digital tax that affects U.S. technology companies. He continued and said it might be on wine, it might be on something else, it could be on anything. He tweeted out the following: France just put a digital tax on our great American technology companies. If anybody taxes them, it should be their home country, the USA. We will announce a substantial reciprocal action on Macron's foolishness shortly. I've always said American wine is better than French wine. Now, it looks like France, for now, has backed off on its plan to implement their digital tax on the U.S. And we can see that Trump, he's not playing around. And we know that many of these countries, they need funding because they're in a huge amount of debt. Most of the countries in Europe, they're ready to collapse under the debt that they continually incur. And they're trying to figure out a way to pay for all this. They were going down the path of global warming, to put a carbon tax on everyone, and hopefully that would offset everything, but that has not worked out for them. And we already see that they're trying to maneuver a way to place taxes in other areas, and Trump is stopping them. The White House came out and they made a statement saying that the U.S. is extremely disappointed by the tax. And we know why this is all happening. We know that the system is coming down. We know the system cannot be sustained. It's built on an illusion. The illusion was made by very low interest rates, stimulus, and they tried to end this, and everything started to fall apart. The Patriots stepped in and said, whoa, we're not doing this. The central banks, they don't have their event. They can't blame it on a war or anything like that. They can't blame it on Trump. And everything started to reverse. Patriots are in control. But what's very interesting, even though that the Fed and the ECB, they're all saying that, listen, we're going to be going to negative rates or lowering the interest rates, and even though they're saying we're going to start stimulus, we need to take a look at their actions. And I'm talking about the central bank actions. The European Central Bank said that the 21 signatories of the Fourth Central Bank Gold Agreement, CBGA, no longer see the need for formal agreement. As the market has developed and matured, and as a result, the signatories decided not to renew the agreement upon its expiry in September of 2019. Now, what is this? What are they talking about? Well, the first CBGA was signed in 1999 to coordinate planned gold sales by the various central banks. When it was introduced, the ECB notes that the agreement contributed to balanced conditions in the gold market by providing transparency regarding the intentions of the signatories. It was renewed 3 times in 2004, 2009, 2014, gradually moving towards less stringent terms. Now, the fourth CBGA, which expires on September 26, 2019, it was signed by the ECB and the central banks of Greece, the central bank of Germany, the central bank of Spain, France, Italy, Cyprus, and the rest. There's 21 of them. And the question is, what is going on here? Well, first, let's just look at the ECB statement. And it says, as market matures, central banks conclude that a formal gold agreement is no longer necessary. Signatories of the Fourth Central Bank Gold Agreement no longer see need for formal agreement as market has developed and matured. Signatory central banks confirm gold remains an important element of global monetary reserves, and none of them currently has plans to sell significant amounts of gold. So, central banks, they haven't sold gold in 10 years. Since their strategy is strictly to buy, their agreement regarding the selling of gold becomes absolutely pointless. What does this tell us? It tells us they're going to be holding on to their gold. Why are they holding on to their gold? Why are they just purchasing? Why aren't they selling anymore? Because they understand that their system is collapsing. Their fiat currency is going to be worth zippo. What's going to be worth something? Gold. This is why they're not selling it. This is why they're purchasing it. I know over the many, many, many years, they've told us that gold isn't important. We just hold it as a relic. It means absolutely nothing. Bernanke was out there saying this when Senator Ron Paul was questioning him. But it turns out the central banks understand that gold is money. This is why they're buying it. This is why they're saying, we're not selling it, so this agreement is absolutely worthless. This is telling us that the system is coming down, which tells us if they're holding on to gold and they're not looking to sell it, it means gold is going to start to rise very rapidly. And a lot of people are going to figure this out, and a lot of people are going to be really late into the market. And some people won't even be able to get into the market because it will be too late. This is what happens when a fiat system collapses. And this is a world fiat system which is controlled by the central bank system. So they just tip their hat, letting everyone know what happens next as the system collapses. Gold rises. Gold is money. And what destroys the central bank system? What exposes them? Gold. It shows that fiat is worth nothing. Gold is the real money. So everything the central bank has been pushing out for all these years, it shows us that they've lied. They're showing us what's real money. Look at their actions, not what they say. Get prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.